Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Always Compete Seahawks Podcast. I am Sam. That is Mike. And with rookie minicamps kicking off, there's still not a lot to talk about, but we have a fun topic that we're going to be breaking down today. We're going to be talking about the cornerback position and why it is the most heated position on the team competition-wise. It's going to be fun to watch this corner room kind of battle for their spots in training camp and in the preseason. So real quick, Mike, do you have anything, just quick first thoughts on this corner room? Like looking at it on paper, you see what they got. What do you think?
If I'm being honest, I think this is the biggest wild card position with the Seahawks. I think we know what we're getting with most of our other positions. You know, we know our wide receivers, we know how our quarterback's going to be. Offensive line is probably another one that's a little shaky. Our defensive line, we have a good idea. Linebackers, we know. I think corners are the biggest wild card, and they're the biggest, variant. So I'm very interested to see how some of these guys do that we're going to talk about. We have some new faces, and hopefully we have some more playmakers that could help piece back together the Legion of Boom.
Yeah. So as of now, we have, I believe, 10 corners on the roster. Let me just do a quick breakdown. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 corners on the roster. That's a lot. And you kind of have to get down to around 6 for the regular season.
7. Like 7's like excessive.
Like 7 is like pretty excessive. You usually have 6 to 5 on the roster. And that, by the way, I will say that does not include what's his face, Marquise Blair. That does not
or Ugo.
Include,
does it not include Ugo either?
It does include Ugo. It includes Ugo. It does not include Marquise Blair. So
okay, all right.
That's just a note. But
good.
The corners on the roster. So pretty much how we're going to be doing this, we're going to be talking about the corners who are kind of fringe roster, backup at best. Then we're going to be talking about the corners that are actually going to be competing, and then we're going to be kind of talking about how we think this starting cornerback lineup is going to shake out. So I'm just going to name these guys, and we're going to give them a position like bona fide starter, making the team legitimate chance to compete, backup at best, fringe roster, 53-man, and then just automatically cut. So let's start off with Akello Witherspoon. I think this one is kind of obvious. He's going to be a competitor for the starting corner outside position. Seahawks signed him in free agency. So he kind of fits that Seahawks build perfectly. So you can pencil him down as a guy who's definitely going to be competing. This is another guy who's a big wild card across Seahawks fandom. Trey Flowers, I think he's going to be competing for a starting outside job because he played really well in his last couple of games that he played in. So I think that's enough to kind of warrant him.
He locked down the best receiver in the league.
Yeah.
Locked him down. And, we talked about this earlier when we were talking about our pre-draft preview of what we were going to do at corner. Some people had been saying that, they think Trey Brown's going to get cut to save salary cap, to maybe go after a guy like Richard Sherman. Well, I kind of think that ship has sailed. And I think that it's a better move to keep him, at least for this year, than to save, however many million cutting him. So I do agree with you. I think if he's on the roster, he's a guy that's obviously a veteran. Pete Carroll knows him. I think he's definitely going to be competing for a starting job. And even if he doesn't win the starting job, he'll have significant reps.
Yeah, for sure. Next up, a guy who I think is definitely going to make the roster, Ugo Amadi. Guy's going to make the roster. Had a pretty good year last year. His first year starting mainly at slot corner. Next up, Demarius Randall. I'm going to have this guy as a fringe 53-man roster. He was a safety for us last year, and they moved him back to corner, which is the position that he started off as in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And then when he got traded from Green Bay to Cleveland, I think it was.
Cleveland, yes.
He was a
safety.
Moved to safety. So we got him as a safety last year. He's going to play corner this year. We're going to see how that works out. He's probably a fringe 53-man at best, and we're going to see how that kind of turns out. Next up, Pierre Desir, former Seahawk, had some preseason time with us, then kind of went to the Colts, had a couple pretty good years, and then went to the Jets and just sucked like horribly last year.
I won't even blame Pierre Desir for that. I think everything that the Jets touched last year just turned to poison. So
even like their good players were bad. Like even their good players were just.
Except for Frank Gore. Nobody can touch Frank Gore. Nobody can touch Frank Gore. He's immortal.
He's just like an absolute freak. Like even Marcus May, he's fine,
Yeah.
but he would be like a top 3 safety in the NFL if he was on the Patriots.
He could be like what's like a safety? Oh, like Jamal Adams maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, just
Something like that.
something like that. Yeah,
Like one of the best
top,
safeties in the NFL.
yeah, a top 3 safety, definitely top 3 safety.
Right. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Ryan Neal, they have him listed as a corner on here. I don't agree with that.
He played safety last year.
Safety. I think he's a backup safety, so we're going to kind of pencil him in as a backup safety on this team.
Yeah.
We have DJ Reed. This is going to be a guy who's going to be competing for a starting spot all day, not even a question. Jordan Miller. Do not know who this is. I will pull up his profile. He is 24 years old, was a 2019 fifth-round pick out of Washington. He played for the Falcons in 2020, got cut, and then signed with the Seahawks this offseason, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
So very little on this guy.
Really quick. What's his height and weight looking like?
If I can find that out, I will give it to you.
All right. Well, while you're finding that out, I'll just say if we're going to build up the Legion of Boom again, we might as well just take guys who were 5th-round picks because that's exactly how we built up the Legion of Boom. So if we just got our Richard Sherman,
we're just taking flyers on 5th-round guys, no matter who they are.
Richard Sherman, Trey
even if
Brown,
they're like
4th-round
horribly below average, it's like 5th-round pick, bring them in. That's kind of how we think. It's kind of how we think around here in Seattle, which is.
It's like every team drafting a quarterback in the 6th round because they want the next Brady. We'll just give me all your 5th-round DBs. Just bring them in.
Yeah, come on. Every single one available. I could not find his height and weight. I'm sure that will come up later in the video.
We'll just assume he's like 6'5", 250. Like
we'll just assume he's like 6'6", maybe a solid
unit, absolute tank.
Yeah. Next up, we have a guy who was recently signed off waivers. It is Savion Smith. 23 years old, will be 24 by the time the season starts. He was undrafted out of Alabama. He hasn't played it down in the NFL. He signed with the Jaguars coming out and then got cut and then signed with the Cowboys and then got cut and then signed with the Seahawks off waivers. So we're going to see how that one kind of works out. I don't really know. It's going to be just, maybe a camp body and maybe a guy who can surprise and make the final 53 man as a backup. I don't see that necessarily, but
no, I don't think so.
Never too late to hope, I guess.
I think with the Seahawks, you have to understand, when you're kind of guessing who's going to make the roster at corner, especially, you have to take 2 things into account. Are they experienced and are they like a prized possession? So Trey Brown obviously hasn't played it down in the NFL, but we just drafted him with our 2nd pick. So obviously he's going to make the roster, right? There's no doubt about that. So you kind of have to think, you have to balance the 2 things. So if we haven't put much stock into a guy and he doesn't have much experience, I wouldn't really be so confident that he makes the roster, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would not be confident either, especially just with how he kind of came here. Right before camp, it kind of just seems like a camp body thing. Like, hey, come in, we need an extra player to fill the 90-man roster. So that's kind of how I see it. Next up is a guy who's very interesting and I think will compete somewhat for a backup job and a practice squad job. It is the undrafted corner out of North Carolina Central, Brian Mills. The guy who's 6'2", long, lanky, played at the Senior Bowl, kind of just the ideal Seahawks player across the board. So we're going to see how that works out because he did not do well at the Senior Bowl. He was like stiff. He struggled in one-on-ones. So as I see it as like a practice squad guy, fringe 53 man. That's kind of the vibes that I'm getting from this guy here.
Yeah, I agree with that. A lot of things with the guys who are undrafted is you have to see how they played in the Senior Bowl, how they played against the best of their competition that they were given. And he really wasn't great at the Senior Bowl. Now, other guys that we picked up were really good at the Senior Bowl, like, Cade Johnson, for example. But, getting to the NFL, he's going to have to really pick it up. You mentioned he was stiff. He's going to have to get more fluid with his hips. He's going to have better change of direction because when you're going against those great route runners, you have to be able to flip on a dime and, cut off those routes. And he wasn't able to do that at the Senior Bowl. So hopefully he can improve that. And then I think he could be a quality player.
Yeah, especially with his size. And he also played pretty well in college. So I like his tape in college, but that was played at a small school. So we're going to see how that kind of works out. And I also looked up Jordan Miller's height while you were talking. He is 6'1". So as we kind of projected, A Seahawks
Pete
corner.
Carroll liked them tall. He liked them tall corners. You know, John Elway. You think of John Elway on the Broncos likes those tall white quarterbacks. Pete Carroll likes his tall corners. So
yeah,
no different.
always.
No different. And
Next
DJ
up,
Reed came in and was like,
yeah, and he's like, whoa, I've never seen anything like this before. He was shocked. He was shocked. Yeah. Next up, we have Gavin Heslop. I don't know how to say his name perfectly, but 23 years old, 6 feet tall, out of Stony Brook. He was a UDFA last year that got cut, practice squatted, played his 2 games on the roster, and didn't do anything. So I see this guy likely as another practice squad body, or potentially, or as a guy who could make the 53-man because he was on the team last year, and Pete might look at a guy like Brian Mills and say, well, Brian Mills might have played a tad better, but we're going to put Heslop on the starting 53 instead of Mills because we think that he has more experience and kind of knows what we expect out of a corner. So that could be something that definitely happens. And we're just going to kind of see how that plays out with Gavin Heslop. I think he's a fringe 53-man guy once again. And finally, a guy who we said is a definite maker of the roster, but we don't know kind of how that's going to work out. It is Trey Brown, the 4th-round pick out of Oklahoma, 5'10", had a pretty good Senior Bowl, had a great college season. If you guys keep on track with Pro Football Focus and college football, you would know that Pro Football Focus favors this guy as like the best corner in college football history. Like he allowed a 30 passer rating when targeted. He allowed like a top 5 in least receptions. He didn't allow a game over like 60 yards last year in the Big 12.
I was just about to say, keep in mind, and it's in the Big 12. Passing yards up the what.
Yeah, and Patrick Mahomes threw like 5,000 yards and 45 touchdowns in the Big 12, and his team went like 6-6. Just process that for a second. So
he threw against actually Oklahoma. He threw like 850 yards in a game.
Yeah, literally. And they lost. And they lost. I can pull that up while you're talking. Just give your thoughts on Trey Brown, as a player overall.
Yeah. I think I really like Trey Brown. Again, I think part of the reason that we took Trey Brown is because, his size is not ideal. And Pete Carroll really likes those tall corners. But I think he saw how good DJ Reed played last year. And they're very similar style of players where, again, they're not, freak of nature athletes, but they're feisty, they're aggressive, they're get in your face, they're physical corners, they have good ball skills. So I really think that is what they're trying to rebuild the Legion of Boom as. Ball hawks, get in your face, be physical, because that's what it was back then. Obviously, Sherman was like, 6'3", 6'4", so it's a little different. But again, I want my corners to be feisty, aggressive, play the ball, and Pete Carroll is a guy who loves those turnovers. So I think Trey Brown is a guy. I thought it was a really good pick. Honestly, I was pretty happy when we took Trey Brown, especially after reading about him.
Yeah, I love his attitude. He's a guy who just competes. So he has some relation to Tyler Lockett. I think he said that his dad went to school with his dad, and they were friends. So he just kind of knows Tyler just like a little bit. So that's kind of cool to hear.
That trash talk is going to be good. And that trash
talk is going to
be great in practice.
Yeah, especially in the mic'd up. All that's going to be fun.
Give me some Trey Brown and Tyler Lockett mic'd up moments, please.
Yeah. So I looked at the game. Oklahoma won 66-59. Baker Mayfield had on 36 attempts, he had 545 yards and 7 touchdowns, no picks. Averaged 15 yards of completion. Patrick Mahomes had on 88 attempts, threw for 735 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 pick. And there's a lot of NFL names in this game. Joe Mixon, D.D. Westbrook, Mark Andrews, Kiki QT.
So for those, I just want to give an analogy. For those of you who don't watch the Big 12 and understand how bad the defense is, imagine if you were playing Madden against the computer on rookie mode, and you just turn the sliders all the way down, and you're just chucking it 50 yards a play, wide open receiver.
It works.
It works. That's how the Big 12 defense is. So the fact that Trey Brown was that good in the Big 12 is really, really good.
It's astonishingly great. And
yes.
I don't remember the last time a really good corner came out of the Big 12. I'll also do some research on that. later. But let's kind of single out the 6 guys that are going to make the team. Let's start with that. So I think we can say that confidently that Jordan Miller, Savion Smith, and let's say, and I'm just going to say those two guys first. Those guys are likely not going to make the team.
Mm-mm.
So that's going to leave us with 8 guys left, meaning that we need to make 2 more cuts. Some guys that I immediately see: Gavin Heslop and Brian Mills, Pierre Desir, Demarius Randall. I end up thinking that Gavin Heslop and Brian Mills are the guys to go because of age. I think that the Seahawks are going to be like, oh, yeah, I would rather have the 2 28-year-old corners that have starting experience in the NFL and have played good at a point, instead of favoring like young potential, and maybe they see those guys as practice squad players who can just get on the team and do some damage there from the practice squad.
Well, and I also think that the thing with Demarius Randall specifically is that he can double as a safety and a corner. So if we have some injuries at safety, we can put him at safety. If we have, corner, we can put him at corner. So I think Demarius Randall, in my opinion, is a pretty strong bet to make the roster. I would say he's probably corner number 5 or 6. So I don't think he's going to be starting, but I do think he'll make the roster because he's a veteran and he's versatile. I think we can sit here and we can both agree the locks to make the roster. DJ Reed is a lock.
Mm-hmm.
Trey Brown is a lock.
Mm-hmm.
I think Akilla Witherspoon is a lock. I would say outside of those 3, Trey Flowers, is probably the biggest lock to make it outside of the top 3 I just mentioned. So that's 4 right there. And then if we have Pierre Desir and Demarius Randall, that's 6. That would be probably my 6 that I think make the roster. I'm not counting Ryan Neal. I think Ryan Neal's a safety. He'll play safety. I don't imagine he plays corner. Marquise Blair also is a safety. I don't know if you mentioned Marquise Blair or not, but he's a safety. So that would be my 6 that I think make the roster. What are kind of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think that those are the 6 guys who make the team. Akella Witherspoon, Trey Brown, and DJ Reed and Trey Flowers. I think I might have said Trey Brown twice. Akella Witherspoon, Trey Flowers, DJ Reed, and Trey Brown are the locks to make the team. They're making the team 99% of the time. And if you were to put on a computer, they're making the team 99.9% of the time. I think it comes down to who are those last 2 guys. There's a lot of players. Ugo is a guy who is going to be on the team. And I think it comes down to, like, who do you cut? Is it going to be Demarius Randall or is it going to be Pierre Desir? And that's going to kind of be the decision that they're going to make. So who would you release?
I actually, to mention, I totally just forgot about Ugo. I was thinking safety, but he's definitely a nickel corner. But you're absolutely right. I would keep him. Between Pierre Desir and Demarius Randall, I would keep Demarius Randall because, again, he's got more of a background as a safety, so he's more versatile. We can put him in at safety, if something, God forbid, something happens to Quandre or Jamal. And I think that, if I'm not mistaken, he's younger than Pierre Desir. Let me kind of look that up really quick. I don't want to lie to you guys.
No, I can pull it up right now, actually. Yeah. So Pierre Desir is 30.
Okay.
Wow, older than I thought.
And Demarius Randall is 28. So, yes.
So a solid 2 to 3 year difference.
Right.
There.
That's substantial in my opinion. And you kind of mentioned it, and we kind of talked about it a little bit. I don't totally blame him, but Pierre Desir did not have a good year last year on the Jets. So
you kind of brought it up, like that whole Jets team was just atrocious. So I don't know if you can necessarily say that it's like Pierre Desir's fault because he had his moments, but like the Greg Williams system is such a horrific system. I don't think you guys understand how bad Greg Williams is as a defensive coordinator.
What do you mean? That call against the Raiders?
This is the guy on a 4th and 10 on like the second to last play of the game ran a 8-man all-out blitz instead of backing up 8 dudes in coverage.
No, okay, just a little tangent here. The funniest thing that happened this NFL season was when that play happened. I wasn't even surprised. I was like, okay, they're tanking. They're gonna get Trevor Lawrence, right? And then they beat the Rams. I was like, what? I mean, I wasn't complaining personally. I remember
and that was the week after we pounded them into the ground 40-3, and then they went out and beat the Rams. That was great.
That was amazing.
And then they beat the Browns the next week. So
yeah, and then the Jets were like, "Oh wait, we were supposed to get the first overall pick," and then they got Zach Wilson. So have fun with that, Jets fans.
Yeah, I'm gonna release Demarius Randall for a couple of reasons. I like Pierre Desir more as a corner right out of the gate. I just kind of do. I like Pierre Desir more as a corner starting in a situation. I know he can play. Demarius Randall hasn't played the corner position in 4 years.
Mhm.
4 years. So that's a concern if DJ Reed and Trey Flowers were to be injured, like back in weeks 8 or whatever when Shaq and Quentin were injured.
Oh, yeah.
Those were two guys, and we had Trey Flowers and we had DJ Reed who stepped in and actually played pretty well. So that's kind of what I'm looking for here. I want a guy who I know can play corner right away. And you kind of talk about versatility. We have guys like Marquise Blair, Ryan Neal, Ugo Amadi, DJ Reed. All these guys have some form of experience at that safety position. So, and by the way, Trey Flowers, who played safety all throughout his career at Oklahoma State and then came to Seahawks where he was then moved to corner. So all of those guys have experience at safety. So like if Quandre or Jamal were to get hurt, first off, we have Ryan Neal as a reinforcement, but I'm more than confident in to start because he played well when he did start.
Shout out Illinois State real quick.
Illinois State. Shout out to Illinois State.
My friend goes to Illinois State, visited, very nice campus. Anyway, sorry to get sidetracked.
But I like Pierre Desir more in a current situation than Demarius Randall if I had to start him. So my final 6 is looking like Akello, Trey Flowers, Ugo Amadi, Pierre Desir, DJ Reed, and Trey Brown. That is my 6, and you have the same thing except Pierre Desir and Demarius Randall at flip.
I do think between Pierre Desir and Demarius Randall, like one of them will be one of the top practice squad guys. So
yeah,
Trey Flowers get injured, DJ Reed gets injured. All right, you're coming up. You're gonna play.
And like we mentioned, Gavin Heslop and Brian Mills, who are going to be fringe 53-man practice squad guys, could also be guys on the practice squad. So I'm not super concerned with depth at the position. I'm more concerned with who's going to be starting, and that's what we're going to kind of break down next. So I think we can kind of confirm. Actually, no, we can't even confirm the slot position. So we're going to go through everything. Go through every single position on the corners, left corner, right corner, and slot. What's the move? Usually, so we're going to start with left corner. That's usually the more important position because teams usually put their best receiver on the left side because for some reason right-handers like that. And it's usually the opposite with left-handers, but there's one left-handed quarterback in the league, and we do not play him this year, so I'm not concerned.
Sorry.
I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned with that. So
yeah,
who do you think is going to start at left corner?
Well, and you bring up a good point, and it's actually a very weird thing that not a lot of people think about. Typically, quarterbacks prefer to throw to their left side. Very weird thing because you're putting your weight on your right foot and you're moving with your left. It's just easier to open up to your left, whereas you have to kind of flip your whole body to throw to your right. People assume they like throwing to their right, but typically quarterbacks like throwing to their left. So you're absolutely right. Some teams run left corner, right corner. Other teams run boundary side, play side. We do the left, right corner thing. We typically have our number one guy at left.
Yeah, like Shaq. I don't think Shaq ever played right corner after Sherman left. I think
he was a left guy for sure. So I think at the left corner spot, I think I'm going to go with DJ Reed for a couple of reasons. Number one, he was our best corner that's on the roster this year. He was the best corner last year that plays this year for us. And he's a physical guy. And if he's going to go against the one receivers, if he's going to go against, DeAndre Hopkins, if he's going to go against, Deebo Samuel, all those guys that in the division, the guys we play, he's going to need to be physical. He's going to need to be aggressive. He's going to need to make plays in the ball. I think that's DJ Reed. At right corner, I really think in the beginning of the year will be Akilla Witherspoon, just because he's a proven guy. He's a guy that, knows what it's like to be a quality starting corner in the NFL, had some good years with the 49ers. So I think that's going to be the right corner. And then slot, I'm going to go with probably Ugo because I think he played slot very well last year, or nickel, whatever you kind of want to call it. I think, nickel slot, I think he's going to do a good job there.
Yeah, I'm going to quickly disagree with you, but agree with you. I'm flipping DJ Reed and Akilla Witherspoon because I don't think Pete can let that happen.
He can't do it.
I don't think Pete is fully ready to evolve. He showed signs by drafting Trey Brown, a 5'10" corner. I respect him for that. But I just don't think that in his heart he'd allow a 5'10" corner to start at left corner. I just don't think he'd let it happen. And, think about it. Usually, like you said, quarterbacks like throwing to their left side, the DeAndre Hopkins are going to line up on the outside, on the left side, the Robert Woods. Especially against guys like DeAndre Hopkins, you want a big, long guy who can match up with Hopkins and be able to kind of swat down passes if they're high, and he has to go up and high point it. He has arms and length enough to just get up there and do that. So I'm going to just flip those, and I'm actually going to put Marquise Blair at slot corner.
Ooh.
We have to stop letting our early picks ride the bench. I'm getting sick and tired of it, and it's starting to get to my head.
Rashad Penny, we looking at you, big dog.
Rashad Penny, it happened to. LJ Collier, it's happening to. I'm sure that if I were to pull up a list, Ethan Posick, this dude did not play for like 3 consecutive years. And now I know he's a starting center, but we wasted 3 damn years of a second-round pick's career. Like, I don't know why we let this happen, but it's ridiculous. I mean,
yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
so
it is.
I'm sorry. I'm a little flabbergasted just because it's just stupid. We do all this, like, the last year we let Damian Lewis start right out of the gate. Marquise Blair hasn't played. Cody Barton has not played. Rasheem Green has played a little bit. Ethan Posick has not played.
To be fair, on the Marquise Blair, bars. Week 2, he was the starting nickel, I believe, and then right before he tore his ACL. So I do believe that was the plan for him to start. But he just tore his ACL. Yeah,
but I'm saying Ugo playing good can't just be like, okay, Marquise, it was a wasted pick. Sit on the bench. Ugo's gonna start.
Yeah.
Unless if Ugo is a beast, you can't let that happen.
And I think
I'm even looking at guys from 2016. Nick Van Nett, 3rd round pick. How many games do you think Nick Van Nett started for the Seahawks?
I don't even remember Nick Van Nett. I'll be honest. I don't remember him. I remember him, but I don't remember.
Nick Van Nett, in his entire 3-year Seahawks tenure, started a grand total of 15 games.
Wow.
15 games. I mean, even Lano Hill, who just signed with Carolina, we picked him 95th in 2017. Guess how many games he started with the Seahawks?
7.
6.
I was very close. Wow.
You're very close. But he started 6 games. I don't think people will realize just how insane that is. I will keep going back. 2014, Paul Richardson. How many games do you think he started in 4 years with the Seahawks?
That catch in the playoffs, though, I'll always remember that one catch in the playoffs.
And he had a really good 2017 year. But he started 19 games in 4 years as a second-round pick.
It's so weird. It's so weird being a Seahawks fan because you take guys in the 1st and 2nd round and they don't play for 3 years, and then the 6th-round pick is a Hall of Famer. It's just so weird.
And you want to know something funny? So the Seahawks drafted him in 2014. He started 6 games. 2015 and 2016, he starts 0 games. In those 2 years combined, he barely played. And even going back to 2013, do you know who our first pick was in 2013?
Oh, so we had the 32nd overall pick. Was it 2013? Was that Ifedi?
Kristen Michael.
Ooh.
We drafted Kristen Michael with Marshawn Lynch. Just sitting there. Just sitting there. The last time we had all 3 of our first-round picks start out of the gate was 2012, and that's when we drafted Bruce Irvin, Bobby Wagner, and Russell Wilson. The Seahawks
that's a bunch of dogs, though.
Objectively bad at drafting, and I know that this video is kind of turned from the Seahawks are objectively bad at drafting in the first 3 rounds. Even Reese Odiambo.
I'll say first 2. Okay, the thing is though, right? Bobby Wagner was a second. DK was a second. So it's like, okay, you've had those guys in the last 10 years that you can't really be bad. I would just say they're terrible in the first round. I would say after the first round, they're pretty good. Just first round, they're just atrocious. The last good, like really good first round pick that the Seahawks have had, probably Earl Thomas.
I mean,
10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, that's bad. That's bad.
That's why, okay, again, to
and
go
Russell
off,
Okung and guys like that. But
to go a little even more off topic, that's why I don't mind trading our 2 first rounds to the Jets. I don't mind it.
I don't care.
We don't draft well in the first round. We don't. Who cares? They're gonna have the 28th pick 2 years. I don't care. I really don't. I'm sorry.
And like the Seahawks, and just back to kind of like the corners, the Seahawks need to let their early picks start. You need to push them into the fire. Eventually, it's going to be time. Like, look at what the Chiefs did. The Chiefs traded up for Patrick Mahomes. Alex Smith came off of a career season where he took them to the AFC Championship game. And they're like, nope, we picked this guy in the first round. This is our guy. You got to go.
I think the Seahawks like pick somebody, and then like in training camp, they're like, I really don't feel like it.
I'm liking this undrafted pick who played in a Division III school more.
If the Seahawks were like a significant other in a relationship, they would just be cheating all the time. They'd be cheating on each other. They'd be like
I picked you over everybody.
I liked you. No,
I liked you at the time.
Right. And
but
then
now,
like a breakup. Like it's never like a hey, you're not gonna play. It's just ooh, I really.
And it just kind of seems like the Seahawks are always too afraid to let go of guys. Like CJ Procise, he was on the team until 2019. Feels weird, doesn't it? It feels weird.
He played like what, 5 games?
He had like a legitimate kind of breakout run in 2016 as a rookie. I remember a game that he had against the Eagles where he had like a 75-yard touchdown run. I loved it. The next. He plays well. He breaks his leg, but he plays well in that rookie season. He doesn't start another game in his career for the Seahawks.
Okay, in 2019, when we lost Penny and Carson, I remember like, all right, CJ Procise time, baby. Where's he at? I don't think did he play at all? I don't think so.
You want to hear how many carries he got in 2019?
Let me guess. In 2019, he had 10 carries for 40 yards.
He actually had 23 carries. Once again, feels weird, but it's just ridiculous. I mean, like the Seahawks have done such a good job at not letting players play. Like it's kind of crazy. Like
they're helicopter parents. They're helicopter parents.
The Seahawks are good at it. Like they're legitimately good at holding players back. Like I go back to that 2019 draft, right? The Seahawks picked DK Metcalf. That's like a golden egg found. That's like a franchise player for the next 10 years. You want to hear the rest of those picks? LJ Collier.
I remember not liking that one.
Marquise Blair. I like Marquise Blair, but he hasn't played.
Right.
Cody Barton.
Hasn't played.
Gary Jennings. Never played a game for the Seahawks. Never played a game. Phil Haynes.
Cut. No, not cut, but he barely plays.
Ugo Amadi, who would not have played if Marquise Blair did not get hurt.
Right, but we have to be fair because then Marquise Blair would have played.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Ben Burke-Irvin.
Doesn't play.
A special teamer, but he doesn't play. Travis Homer. Oh, God.
Get him away.
DeMarcus Christmas.
The coolest defensive tackle name I've ever heard, other than Poop Johnson.
Yeah.
He's second. He's always second.
And John Ursua. Like, it's kind of crazy.
John Ursua is cool. I really like John Ursua. He's actually just a cool dude.
But just to round this off and to end out this podcast, we kind of changed the whole topic of this podcast.
Right. We just went on a tangent.
The Seahawks suck at drafting in the first. The Seahawks suck at drafting in the first couple of rounds most of the time.
Yeah.
We have our gems. I mean, it's on paper. Damian Lewis, a good pick. That's an objectively good pick at 69th overall. Nice. DK Metcalf at 64. Nice. That's a great pick.
Tyler Lockett was 69 too, I believe.
Tyler Lockett, 69. Nice. Frank Clark, 63rd. Beautiful. I love that pick.
Okay. I think I figured it out.
At 49th. That's good. Awesome. But, I mean,
I think I figured it out.
Are bad.
We just need to draft. Every year, we just need to acquire the 69th overall pick
And draft a receiver.
Instant Hall of Famer. Instant Hall of Famer.
Yeah, like instantaneous Hall of Famer. I mean, I'm going to go back in history and see if the Seahawks ever had the 69th pick. But
it's like Steve Largent. Steve Largent is like the 69th pick.
Yeah, it's just like everybody.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson, 69th overall. Russell Wilson was only 6 picks away from 69.
He was 75, yeah, 75.
So, I mean, it's not that far. But
well, it's 69 plus the amount of Super Bowls that he's going to win. 75.
Yeah, guys, that's going to be our next video, why the Seahawks should trade for pick 69 every year. Stay tuned for that. We're gonna be talking about that. So as I'm actually scrolling back, it looks like the Seahawks have never, ever had the 69th pick throughout their franchise history past that point. So that's kind of unfortunate.
Point to start.
But
so what would the 69th be naturally? It would be 32. It's the 5th overall pick.
Third worst team.
It's the 5th overall pick of the 3rd round, if my math is correct. 32, and 5. Yeah. So we need to trade for an early 3rd next year. Okay, sounds good. Pete?
Yeah, everything's kind of coming together
Pete
now.
and John, you know what you have to do? Just do it.
Yeah, the Seahawks have never picked at 69 besides Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. That's an insane stat.
They were both 69?
Yeah, they're both. I mean, Tyler Lockett and whatchamacallit there?
Blair?
No, I'm blanking. Damian Lewis.
That's crazy.
That's a stat. The Seahawks have picked at 69 twice, and both have been legitimate, decent.
You're also the 69th overall pick, Cooper Kupp. He's a stud. Dude, pick 69 every year.
Yeah.
It's just one of those numbers. I'm going to look up. And we don't have to talk about this. Maybe this part gets cut out. 69th.
Yeah, we can cut this out. But now that we're on it, we can't let this go.
Yeah, 69 overall draft picks. Okay.
And throughout history. By the way, I looked up Big 12 corners, a couple notable ones. DJ Reed, Bradley McDougald played safety.
Yannick Ngakoue. Oh my God, these are studs.
Dude, it's just a magic number.
Okay, ready? Joseph Asai this year. Damian Lewis last year, stud. Josh Oliver, BJ Hills, he's good. Cooper Kupp is a stud. Yannick Ngakoue, stud. Tyler Lockett, stud.
Tyrann Mathieu.
Oh my God, dude. Jared Valdir. These guys are freaking studs. Jason Witten. Bro, what the fuck?
Dude, this is that we've actually kind of found a crazy.
We have broken the draft.
Oh, bro, we cracked it wide open.
And there's like a gap where there's not the
even back in 1981, Russ Grimm, one of the main pieces of the Hogs.
Oh my gosh.
All the way back there. Dude, Jason Witten. Even Paul McQuiston had a career. Like
Joe Rogers. Oh my gosh.
Dude.
Jack Christensen, dude.
Am I the
only
one who kind of thinks that this is crazy? Yo, Mel Phillips? Where have I heard that name before?
He's something. Steve Wright, Bill Irwin.
Dude.
Okay, so we need to make a video about the 69th draft pick.
And why the Seahawks should acquire it every year, no matter what the cost is.
Three first rounders. Bobby Wagner, DK Metcalf.
Bro, it's gonna be like that. It's gonna be like what
Ricky Williams.
Yeah, Ricky Williams. We'll trade the whole draft and our first 3 picks next year, and our first 3 picks after that.
The Seattle Seahawks have traded the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 2 5ths, 6th.
Roger Goodell's looking at the card. He's like, and the Seahawks select. It says automatic Hall of Famer on the card. I don't know who this is.
And the Seahawks select Joe Schmo. 15 years later, is the best quarterback in the fucking league.
15 years later, just the best player in NFL history. Like, nobody.
Can you imagine? No, dude, the ESPN draft coverage would be like, and the Seahawks have acquired the 69th pick. It's just John and Pete sitting in there with sunglasses, like.
Yeah, it's just sitting there, just like.
They're like doing like the dolphin thing. All right, I'm gonna end this one, and then we'll.
All right. We have to do the outro though.
Yeah. All right. Oh yeah. You go ahead.
But anyways, thank you guys for listening in. Once again, subscribe to the channel, leave a like. Once again, if you have a comment, if you think, hey, Trey Flowers is going to start at left corner, go ahead, let us know. We want to start debates based on your opinions. That's kind of what we're talking about here. So if you guys have any topics, any ideas, go ahead and drop them in the comments. And Mike, do you have anything to say?
Let's just hope that our corners can be elite next year.
And let's hope that we always pick at the 69th overall pick.
And let's just hope that we get the 69th overall pick for the rest of eternity.
Yeah.
I just want to make that trade.
All right. Peace out.
See you guys later.